This is a chapter in a book I'm writing about how people can enhance everyday life using experimentation, testing out ideas using science, and having concrete examples of ways you can implement it. So feedback is welcome. So question time. How can you reduce procrastination? I'm going to talk about a paper we published that was honorable mention for an award at a conference on how to design messages to deliver to yourself using AI, artificial intelligence, and psychology. So let's start off by think of the last time you procrastinated, let's say this week, this month, yesterday, and think forward to actually the next time you're going to procrastinate. Today, tomorrow, this coming week. Visualize exactly what you're doing. Where you're sitting, what device is in front of you, because you know it's going to be a device. What are your thoughts going through your head? What are you procrastinating on? And what are you procrastinating with? To give two examples, let's say you're a busy CEO, C-suite person, manager, employee, and you're thinking about the task that you really don't want to do right now. It feels overwhelming because you think, I need to do this perfectly. This has to be the best PowerPoint I've ever given in my life. This report has to be absolutely clear. There's 25 factors. I don't know how they come together. The spreadsheet, doing the analysis has to be exceptional. And I'm like, this is too much. I can't do this now. I don't have the energy. I don't have the insight. I don't want to deal with this now. It's too much. And so then that's what you're procrastinating from. What are you procrastinating with? Maybe you're checking email. Maybe you're doom scrolling. Maybe you're getting up and walking around and talking to colleagues. So in that moment, you may or may not be saying things to yourself, right? Like you might be saying something that is not actually helping you get onto the task, or at least figure out if this is a big deal and you should just defer to later. That's productive procrastination, or just a decision. Or if you're actually procrastinating because you know it really is better to do it now. There's a negative long-term consequence if you don't do it now. So the challenge I want to tackle here is, how do we help you or design for you messages that in that moment a message would appear as a text, it would be something written down on paper, it would be something that you say out loud to yourself that would actually get you to change your behavior. That sounds like magic, right? Harry Potter. What's that magic message that comes in and influences your behavior? Well, this is what I and many other professors work on, right, for decades. What do you say to someone to get them to change their behavior in a particular moment for a particular reason? So this paper we published actually focuses on designing different messages to say to yourself in those moments. For example, the messages you currently say to yourself aren't really that effective. You might say something like, many people depend on me, I shouldn't be checking email when there are better things to do. Why am I doom scrolling? It's a waste of time, I don't feel good. I have something important to get done, and every moment I wait it gets worse. Now, if these messages aren't working, well, try something else. So what we did in this paper is we actually designed a whole workflow where we would give people examples of messages, some curated by experts, and then we'd actually ask them to think about a moment and then use an interface with an LLM, large language model like ChatGPT, to actually change that message. For example, we give a message like this. In this moment, own yourself. Overcoming procrastination is about self-regulation. We know we shouldn't procrastinate, but we're unable or unwilling to regulate ourselves to act because procrastination gives benefits. It provides immediate mood repair. We get a hit of feeling better. So here's a cognitive insight for you. When you're about to give in to feel good, always remind yourself, you're the owner of yourself, you can control yourself, and you should control yourself. You wouldn't wish to sacrifice something more important for immediate mood repair. You wouldn't let desire take control over you. So what do? Part of the message is, give yourself psychological flexibility. Tell yourself, if I find myself saying, I feel like it tomorrow, then I know it signals giving in, and I would just start on the task and procrastinating. This is what's called an implementation intention. If, then. So this message may or may not work for you in that moment, and even a really good message may not work for you that often. 10%, is that enough for you? 50%? 80%? Because you know how often you procrastinate, right? Now, here's a nice twist. That was designed using psychological research and insights from talking to people. Now, the AI part now lets you modify it, right? So you can actually, we had an interface where you could say, well, change the tone of this. Can you make this shorter? Can you make this longer? What else would you want to do? GPT, give me 5 messages that vary in being scolding and forceful. I want to have someone kind of, like that gym coach I had from, secondary school or high school. Get up and do it, you can do it. Or you might say, I'm just overwhelmed, I'm exhausted. GPT, give me some messages that are self-compassionate, that kind of acknowledge it's really hard and that it's okay to feel the way I do, and despite that, I'm going to take some action. Or, GPT, can you just make this easier for me? Give me 5 examples of what I'm feeling and 6 small steps I can take to get started for just 1 minute. So, how do I tell myself I can just do 1 minute of this and I can go back to procrastinating, but I'll just start for 1 minute? So what do you all find insightful about this? What's useful? What could you use? One insight that I find helpful from this is that you want to focus on that moment. In that moment that you're thinking about, where you shift from what you want to do and what truly you value and will help in the long term, to a short-term distraction. Social media, doom scrolling, something else, emails, eating junk food. What is a message you say to yourself? We don't stop. We don't have a touch point, right? Where we're like, I'm saying something to myself and I don't even realize it because it's in my head. And what do we say instead? What are alternative messages? And especially, let's start from psychology, like the principles I laid out, and then it may not be relevant to you in that moment, or it may not make sense to you. So let's use artificial intelligence to actually allow you to craft messages that are good for you. And what do? Write them down. I mean, you could hope that you say it to yourself, but you've been saying things to yourself for years and it doesn't always work. So why not have them explicitly in front of you? Put them in a document, an email to yourself, write them on a piece of paper, and see if actually the message works. And if it doesn't, take the same message and then ask GPT to give you better versions. So what do you all take away? What would you tell someone else was interesting and insightful about this? What's the next step? What are you going to do differently after this? In a situation that you're going to procrastinate, instead of doing A, try B or C. Instead of implicitly just going along or saying to yourself, I shouldn't do this, think of a message B or C you can send to yourself instead. So what's one concrete action or thing you can do differently after this that'll help you? Specify it in enough detail that you'll know whether you did it or not. For example, within 24 hours, I will put a link to this recording into a calendar event that will ask me in the heading, did you apply this? Did you send a message to yourself to reduce procrastination? Set that calendar event for a time that you might be at risk for procrastination, or even better, do it before. Now, if you want further reading, you can read our paper led by one of my grad students. It's at the URL tiny.cc/spark paper. tiny.cc/SPARKPAPER. If you want a lot of further reading, there's a fantastic book by Tim Pitchell on procrastination. So Google Tim Pitchell procrastination. I'll provide a link to it. Now I just want to do a fun thing that a lot of you can ignore, but you might want to listen in. And then I'm going to end this video with a concrete GPT exercise you can use to design your messages and put them up. So hang on for the science, through the science, and stay for the concrete fun. So for scientists, or if you all want to be scientists, if you want to collaborate with us on a paper, here's a paper. Let's write a paper answering what are more versus less useful approaches designing scientifically backed messages to help minimize procrastination that are fun and compelling enough that people will actually reshare them on social media. Anyone listening to this will be like, damn, I want to share this and send it to all my friends. It's so great. Because the challenge is the scientifically backed messages, like the ones I said earlier, can be helpful, but they don't engage in the same way. So we have to kind of combine those two approaches. Here's an example how I do this study. We can deploy these messages on Instagram. The ones, like I gave an example, there are many more in the paper. We can modify them with AI. And then try and identify, through experimentation, which of these messages are most likely to be reshared and sent on. We can also interview 10 people to understand what the pros and cons are of these messages and get them to share and come up with even better ones. This is a paper you could consider It's the start of a paper. Not saying the entire paper's there, right? Papers take hundreds of hours. But you can submit this to, for example, CHI, Computer Human Interaction. And there are also other venues. So contact me if you want to write a paper like that. All right. Hopefully that was a little interesting diversion for people. So back to business, all right? Let's end. Now, in terms of a concrete takeaway, what you would tell someone else you learned from this, you might actually share something like this. Hey, here's a GPT prompt you can use to come up with messages you can tell yourself or text yourself or write down to look at when you're about to procrastinate. Okay, here's the prompt. And I'm giving you a prompt in a template form. I'm going to use things like A1, A2, A3 to indicate different things you could write. Or you can just write the whole thing in GPT. It will actually handle it surprisingly well. But I want you to know what you can fill in to make it relevant to you in your context. So when you hear XX or YY, that's basically a template for you to fill something in. All right, so here's the GPT prompt. Give me 5 messages I can send to myself when I'm about to procrastinate or already procrastinating. Here's an example for inspiration that I would try to tell myself, XX. And the XX can be what you write right now, or you can just take what I said earlier in this video, or just lower in our paper and take one of those, or 5 of those. Second, GPT, make these messages, here's some options, option A1, direct and scolding, or option A2, gentle and encouraging. GPT, make it option B1, 50 words, option B2, 100 words, option B3, you get the idea. GPT, give me 3 ideas for when I'm going to send these messages to myself and how I will do it. Here are some inspirational ideas for you, GPT. C1, write on paper now and stick it on my laptop, desk, or somewhere else see it. C2, option C2, schedule an email to myself using futureme.org. Futureme.org lets you schedule emails. I have one that I got recently when I was 18 years old and I wrote it to myself. Or 20, I can't remember. C3, option C3, make it a calendar event or an alarm on my phone for the time I'm most likely to procrastinate. Or C4, GPT, give me some other ideas. You add them into this prompt. So I think I'll end here. What do you all take away from this? What do you tell someone else or something cool you got from this? And what's your next step? Have a great day. Hope this helps.